Welcome to the intelligence stack.
Glad to be diving into this.
So I want you to imagine something. Your team has this just brilliant idea.
Right.
They spend the weekend sketching it out. They validate it with a few key customers. They sit down and they build a fully working prototype in just 11 days.
Which is incredibly fast.
Oh, absolutely. 11 days. You're feeling great. You're moving at the absolute speed of light because you have all these incredible new AI tools at your disposal. They're writing code, generating assets, just doing all the heavy lifting.
Doing the stuff that used to take months.
Exactly. But then that fully functioning prototype just sits there.
Yep.
It sits in an internal approval queue for 6 long weeks. It's waiting for legal to look at it. It needs a design consistency audit, cross-functional sign-off, the whole corporate works.
It is a painfully common story right now across, almost every industry.
It's crazy.
And the brutal truth about that specific scenario is that the AI didn't slow that team down. The organizational chart did.
The org chart. Yeah, and that is the exact paradox we are tackling for you today. Because our mission with this deep dive is to figure out why AI is actually making historically slow organizations, well, even more disadvantaged than they were before.
Right.
It feels like every company is completely hyper-fixated on the tech itself. We sit around debating which foundation model to use or how to train employees on prompt engineering.
Constantly.
And we are completely ignoring the foundational question. Is your organization actually structurally capable of running fast enough to benefit from any of this?
And for the vast majority of companies out there, the answer is a resounding no.
Wow. Just flat out no.
Flat out no. And I think the fundamental misunderstanding driving this is how business leaders view the core value proposition of AI. If you listen to the standard pitch, it's almost always framed around efficiency.
Right. It's always the do a 10-hour job in 2 hours pitch, automate the boring stuff, clear your inbox faster, generate a report in seconds instead of days.
Which, to be fair, is completely true. And it's very measurable. You can absolutely save those 8 hours.
Yeah.
But viewing AI purely as an efficiency engine is, it's just looking at the secondary effect.
Okay, so what's the primary effect then?
The real tectonic shift, the dynamic that will actually dictate which companies survive the next 5 years, is that this technology dramatically reduces the cost of learning.
Cost of learning. Okay, when you say that, my mind immediately goes to the concept of failure.
Right.
Are we essentially saying that AI makes failing so cheap that businesses no longer need to be terrified of it?
That is a brilliant way to frame it. Think about the traditional build and learn loop in a corporate environment. Historically, building a prototype, putting it in front of real users, gathering their feedback, analyzing what broke, and then drafting a totally new version.
That's a massive undertaking.
Exactly. That entire cycle used to take weeks, maybe even months. It required massive resource allocation. But now, you can run parts of that cycle in days, sometimes even hours.
So the timeline shrinks massively, which obviously changes the risk profile entirely.
The implication is entirely structural. The winner in this new era is definitely not the team with the most expensive, highly customized AI model.
Right.
The winner is the team that can run the most high-quality build and learn cycles in a single quarter.
Because more cycles mean more user feedback.
Yes, which translates into more learning, and that learning compounds over time. If your competitor is capable of running, say, 12 iterative cycles a quarter, and your internal processes mean you can only run 2.
You're toast.
Right. They're not just moving faster. By the end of the year, their fundamental understanding of the market and the customer is exponentially deeper than yours could ever be. Execution velocity has become the only true competitive advantage left.
It really makes me think of dropping a 1,000-horsepower Formula One engine into a rusted 1950s farm tractor.
I love that visual. It perfectly captures the mismatch.
Because you have this engine, the AI, which is incredibly powerful, capable of running at breakneck speeds. But the gearbox, the transmission, the chassis, that is your organizational structure.
Yeah.
They simply shatter.
Yeah.
Because they literally cannot handle the torque. You try to redline the engine and the wheels fly off, the employees get burned out, the compliance team has a total meltdown, and the IT department just, blocks everything.
Exactly. You can't just upgrade the engine. You have to upgrade the entire vehicle to handle that kind of velocity.
Because the shiny new tools are just sitting on top of incredibly slow decision loops and highly fragmented approval chains.
Right. And to really fix this, we have to step back and ask, why the tractor was built that way in the first place.
Mm.
Large organizations didn't just accidentally become sluggish over time.
Mm.
They were engineered to be slow on purpose.
Slow by intentional design. I mean, who wants to be slow?
Well, it's a highly rational design for an era that simply doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. If you look at the pre-AI corporate world,
Uh-huh.
the financial and reputational cost of making a wrong decision was astronomical.
Sure.
If you shipped a flawed piece of enterprise software or launched a massive miscalculated global marketing campaign, you could literally tank the company's quarterly earnings.
Yeah, heads would roll.
Exactly. So, to protect the organization, leadership optimized for coordination and defensibility.
Right.
They added layers of managerial review. They built complex multi-stage sign-off processes.
Right.
They created these massive steering committees specifically to ensure that absolutely no single person could make a consequential decision on their own.
But wait, hold on. Isn't risk management a fundamental necessity? Like a good thing?
Well,
We can't just have rogue product teams shipping broken, hallucinatory code out to enterprise clients constantly. You need some level of guardrails to protect the brand, right?
you absolutely need guardrails, but we have to completely redefine what constitutes a risk in today's environment. The advent of AI inverts the old mathematical equation entirely. Today, you can use these tools to ship a targeted test, measure the results in real time, and roll it back completely inside of a week if it underperforms.
Oh, I see.
Right. A wrong decision is no longer a massive, unrecoverable catastrophe. It's just a relatively cheap data point.
That is a massive perspective shift. So the cost of slowness has actually surpassed the cost of a correctable error.
Precisely. Consider an internal approval committee that takes 6 weeks to review a low-stakes product feature, a feature that could have been coded, tested, and validated in 3 days.
Yeah.
That committee is no longer managing risk. By bleeding 6 weeks of crucial time, they are actively creating risk.
Because while you're sitting in a conference room for 6 weeks debating whether it's safe to run a small test, your nimblest competitor has already run the test, failed, learned exactly why it failed, and launched the successful second iteration to the public.
Exactly. You spend all your energy protecting yourself from a minor correctable mistake, and in doing so, you guarantee that you lose the market entirely.
So if you're listening to this right now and looking at your own team, how do you diagnose if you're driving the tractor? Like, are there specific red flags to look for?
Yes. You ignore your tech stack, and you ignore the size of your AI budget.
Yeah.
Instead, you open up your calendar.
The calendar,
Yeah.
because you're looking for how much empty space people have to actually do deep work.
Actually, it's a much more blunt, highly accurate diagnostic metric. You count the number of people invited to your average product decision meeting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. When you look at the data across various teams and industries, there is a stark negative correlation between average meeting size and execution speed.
So the sheer volume of attendees is a symptom. It means nobody actually has the unilateral authority to make a call.
Exactly. The sheer necessity of assembling a 12-person meeting to make a standard operational decision is a massive red flag. It signals that decision rights within the company are dangerously unclear. It means accountability is highly diffuse. And most importantly, it means no small agile team actually has the authority to run a build and learn cycle on their own without asking for permission.
Right, because every extra person you add to that calendar invite is not just a helpful voice in the room. They act as an implicit toll booth on the highway.
A toll booth. That's a perfect way to put it.
If everyone on a 10-person Zoom call has to nod and offer their perspective before the car can drive forward, you're going to be stuck in organizational traffic forever.
And the data backs up just how painful this traffic jam has become. Currently, 47% of executives openly admit their internal AI development is moving far too slowly.
Almost half.
Almost half. And when asked for the primary reason, the number one answer is not that the technology is too complex or that they lack engineering talent.
Let me guess. It's the toll booths.
The top cited reason is complex internal approval processes. In large organizations, over 70% of decision time is literally just waiting.
70% of the time is just waiting. That is staggering. I mean, it's not that people are rigorously debating the code for 6 weeks. It's that the prototype is sitting in an inbox for 5 weeks and 6 days before anyone even opens it.
And this specific bottleneck completely separates the winners from the losers in the current market.
Right.
Looking at the broader landscape, about 74% of companies are struggling to actually extract any meaningful value out of their AI investments. On the flip side, only about 4 to 5% of companies operate as truly future-built leaders.
Okay, so what kind of daylight is there between those future built leaders, that tiny 4 to 5%, and everyone else?
The performance gap is massive. These future built leaders are currently seeing 1.5 times higher revenue growth than their lagging peers,
Wow.
and they're generating 1.6 times greater shareholder returns. They're pulling away from the pack incredibly fast.
But if they're not just buying better technology or spending more money on tools, what does the playbook of that 5% actually look like?
It comes down to a framework known as the 10-20-70 rule.
Okay, break that down for us.
So, among the companies generating the absolute best financial returns from artificial intelligence, their implementation effort breaks down like this. Only 10% of their focus goes to the algorithms and the models themselves.
Just 10%.
Just 10. About 20% goes to the underlying technology infrastructure, like data pipelines and cloud storage.
Right.
And a massive 70% of their effort goes entirely to people and organizational processes.
70% on process. That is wild. That means they aren't just buying enterprise licenses for a chatbot and calling it a day.
Not at all.
But what does spending the lion's share of your effort on process actually look like in practice? Are they firing the middle managers who run these approval committees, or are they just retraining them?
It often involves a blank page workflow redesign.
A blank page.
Yeah. High-performing organizations are nearly 3 times more likely to map out how work gets done and strip it down to the studs. They don't just bolt a fast AI tool onto an old, slow approval process.
Because that would just be putting the F1 engine in the tractor.
Exactly. They ask a fundamental question. If an AI is now a core participant in this workflow, how should the work actually move?
Right.
For example, instead of having a legal team manually review every single internal-only low-stakes test, they might automate the compliance checks or remove the legal requirement entirely for certain tiers of experimentation. They structurally remove the human toll booths.
You know, I was looking at the numbers for this deep dive, and there is this wild contradiction that stood out to me.
Yeah.
The data shows that these top-tier AI leaders actually pursue half as many AI initiatives as the lagging companies.
Yes.
That sounds completely insane to me. Everyone is racing to adopt this technology, and there's immense pressure to innovate. Why does doing less make you faster?
I know it sounds counterintuitive, but ruthless prioritization is the secret to their speed. Consider the behavior of the lagging companies. They are running, say, 20 different AI pilots simultaneously across various departments just to show the board they're being innovative.
Right, the classic, look how busy we are strategy.
Exactly. Every single one of those 20 pilots is owned by a massive cross-functional committee. Every pilot requires a formal quarterly review. And what is the actual output at the end of the year?
Let me guess. A slide deck.
A slide deck. Not a shipped product, not a compounding learning loop. They produce a 60-page slide deck about the theoretical potential of the pilot.
The classic corporate pilot purgatory. You do a lot of reporting on the work instead of actually doing the work.
Meanwhile, the leaders pursue half as many initiatives because they focus all their energy on just a few high-value cycles.
Oh, I see.
They assemble a small elite teams, give them total authority to make decisions without checking in, and let them execute continuously until they extract actual compounding market learning.
So they don't want the slide deck.
They don't want a slide deck outlining a theoretical pilot. They demand a shipped experiment and analyzed results.
Okay, let's play out the worst-case scenario here. Say a company leadership team hears this and decides, no, we like our oversight committees. We feel safe with them. We'll just keep buying better AI tools but maintain our current approval architecture. Where does that leave them 12 to 18 months from now?
That is exactly where they hit an immovable wall because the technology is rapidly becoming autonomous. We are entering the era of agentic AI.
Agentic AI. This is where things get a little sci-fi, but it's happening right now on the ground, isn't it?
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
Agentic AI refers to systems that don't just act as an advanced autocomplete for an email or summarize a long PDF.
Right.
These are systems capable of planning and executing complex, multi-step workflows entirely on their own. Given a high-level goal, they can research the parameters, draft the code, provision the necessary servers, test the output, and iterate on errors without human intervention.
Wow.
And this is not a distant future state. Agentic AI already accounts for roughly 17% of total AI value right now, and its adoption curve is incredibly steep.
17% already. Let's put a concrete visual to that. Imagine an autonomous agent is given a task to, I don't know, optimize a supply chain route.
Okay.
It analyzes the logistics data, writes the new routing code, and creates a deployment plan in about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
But then to push it live, it has to email the director of operations for approval.
And there's the toll booth.
Exactly. The director is on PTO for a week, then it gets forwarded to the VP who wants to discuss it in a meeting next Tuesday.
Yeah.
The AI just sits in a frozen state for 2 weeks.
And the business gets absolutely zero value from the 3-minute execution because the human gatekeepers took 14 days to say yes.
Right.
AI agents don't solve organizational bottlenecks. They act as a massive spotlight, highlighting exactly where the human gatekeepers are strangling the company's velocity.
The AI just hurries up to wait. It violently exposes how slow the chassis really is. So, if you're listening to this and you realize your organization is fundamentally engineered for the wrong era, we need to get actionable.
Definitely.
There are 3 immediate steps you should advocate for to start shifting this architecture. The first is a fundamental shift in what your leadership team measures. You need to measure cycle time, not AI adoption.
Yes. Tracking how many AI tools you have deployed or what percentage of your staff took a prompt engineering seminar, those are pure vanity metrics.
Of noise.
Pure noise. You need to track the physical time it takes to go from a raw idea on a whiteboard to shipping a testable version to users to analyzing the feedback data. If that core cycle is taking longer than 2 weeks for your primary product, no AI tool on the market is going to fix your problem.
Right.
You have a structural org design problem.
Okay, so the second step is to locate your approval bottlenecks explicitly. Pick a recent medium-stakes decision your team had to make. Map out every single sequential approval it required.
Count the days each step took.
Yes, and most importantly, calculate what percentage of that time was spent on deep, substantive review versus just sitting in an inbox waiting for someone to glance at it. Like we discussed, you're probably going to find that 70% of that timeline was pure waiting.
Easily.
You've had to kill that dead time.
Yeah.
Make the approvals asynchronous, or just eliminate them entirely for low-stakes tests.
And the third step is perhaps the most unglamorous, but absolutely the most crucial. Build the feedback capture infrastructure before you spend another dollar on a shiny new foundation model.
Because if you don't build a systematic pipeline to capture the data from your rapid experiments, you are not compounding your learning.
You're just flying blind.
It's like you're running faster and faster in circles, but you have no memory of the last lap. You run an incredibly fast test using AI, but if there's no automated way to capture what happened, analyze why the users hated it, and feed that insight directly into the next version. I mean, what was the point of moving fast in the first place?
There is 0 point. Building that data pipeline from the production environment back to the product team is tedious work. It's not going to get anyone a magazine cover.
Right. No one's winning awards for that.
No. But it is the critical infrastructure that separates the companies that actually learn from the market, from the companies that just move fast, break things, and have no idea why they're losing money.
So what does this all mean for you listening today? The main takeaway is undeniably clear. The organization that ultimately wins the AI era is not the one with the biggest enterprise software budget.
Yep.
It's the organization brave enough to tear down and redesign its own internal architecture. The winners are actively building environments where a small, empowered team can go from a spark of an idea to a shipped experiment to an analyzed result in days, not quarters, not months, days.
If you don't build your organization to support that rapid loop, the technology you choose to deploy genuinely does not matter. But there is a final, rather unsettling thought I want to leave you with.
Uh-oh. Lay it on us.
Throughout this entire discussion, we have been talking about the frustration of AI having to wait on slow human approval processes. We're operating on the baseline assumption that humans are still and will always be the ultimate gatekeepers of business decisions.
Right. We assume the human always has to hit the approve button.
But if your organization's ultimate speed limit is determined by human consensus and committee meetings, what happens to your business model when your nimblest, most aggressive competitor decides to remove the human from the approval loop entirely?
Wow. Now that is a thought that will keep you up at night. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the intelligence stack. We will catch you next time.